The biggest trick to consistency is scheduling and creating in advance and publishing later. I know that's probably intuitive and most people know that, but it's the doing it that actually, makes it happen. Welcome back to On The Horizon. This is Melrose Michaels. I am your host, and I'm here to share what's worked for me in building my adult creator business to try to make building yours just a little bit easier. Let's get into today's episode. Hello, everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining us. One of the things that adult creators struggle with and ask me the most about, and most frequently, I should say, is productivity. Now, productivity doesn't necessarily only mean about how you get more things done, but how you get the right things done. So in the chaos of all of our daily lives, it's really easy to become consumed by the tasks that we do, even though they may not contribute significantly to our long-term goals. So I'm sure that every single person listening to this can think of one person they know personally who is always busy, but never seems to have anything materialize from what they spend those efforts on. So it's the classic problem of just spinning your wheels. Most of us here have heard it stated that there's a difference between being busy and being productive. And I really want to focus the next 30 minutes or so around a framework that I think could help you increase your productivity by focusing you on the right things that will actually move your business forward. So the first step in that whole process, of course, is identifying them. This is where the Eisenhower Matrix comes into play. So this is named after the 34th president of the United States, Dwight D. Eisenhower. And the Matrix is a time management tool that's designed to help you prioritize tasks based on their urgency or importance. So first, how does the Eisenhower Matrix work? And then how can you apply it to your day-to-day life to skyrocket your productivity? So let's talk about it. First, we need to understand the Eisenhower Matrix. I'm going to describe it to you, but it's a very visual thing. It is a simple 2x2 grid that helps you categorize tasks into the following 4 quadrants. Because you're listening to this in audio form, imagine in your mind a square that's cut in half vertically and horizontally, essentially turning it into 4 different squares inside that larger one. So across the top square, the big square, you're going to see an urgent label over the left column, and then a not urgent label over the right column of the square. Then along the left-hand side of the square, you'll imagine a not important label on the bottom row and an important label on the top row. Now, for the 4 squares inside the larger one, you're going to be putting things into categories. So that top left square, which falls under the important and urgent label, is the due first category. So this is where you're going to categorize tasks that are both critical for your long-term goals and require your immediate attention. Now, the top right square, which falls under the important but not urgent label, is where you're going to create a schedule category. This is where you'll categorize tasks that contribute to your long-term success but aren't pressing for immediate completion. Now, the bottom left square, which falls under not important but urgent labels, is in the delegate category. So this is where you're going to categorize tasks that require prompt action but aren't crucial to achieving long-term objectives. And then that leaves us with the bottom right square, which falls under not important and not urgent labels. This is going to essentially be your delete category. So this is where you're going to categorize tasks that neither contribute to your goals nor require immediate action. This is going to start to give you an idea of how the Eisenhower Matrix works structurally, but now we're going to get into how you can actually use it. If you're enjoying this podcast episode so far, please take one moment to share it with another one of your adult content creator friends, because you know what the rule is here. We do not gatekeep, and we want to make as many adult creators' businesses as easy as possible. And you sharing this episode with them might do exactly that. Thanks so much in advance. So let's implement this Eisenhower Matrix. Step 1, you're going to list out your tasks. So if you already have your tasks organized somewhere like Asana, which is what I use, or there's a completely free option, which I also suggest people use, which is Google Tasks, because that's very user-friendly. It can be implemented with your Google Calendar. They have an app for it, Google Task app. But wherever you list out your tasks, you want to have them somewhere centralized so that you can actually go through them and see what's all on your plate. So this could be tasks for the day, for the week, or for the entire month. But this step is essentially about getting a clear overview of everything that demands your time and attention. So for an adult content creator, this may look something like, film 3 new videos, or schedule 5 days of Twitter promo posts, or, create 3 TikToks, or reply to comments from fans and followers, or even answer DMs from fans. And this can even expand to your regular life stuff. So grocery shop for the week, clean up my cam room, open mail, ship panties, whatever your list of tasks looks like. Think about organizing them in a central place so that you can start to evaluate them. Step 1 is organizing or listing your tasks, and step 2 is going to be evaluating them. So after you've listed out all of your tasks or kind of taken a look at what you do on a daily basis, it's time to evaluate them based on 2 criteria. So we're going to use just urgency and importance. So what you're going to want to do here is essentially ask yourself, A, does this task contribute significantly to my long-term goals? So is it important? And then B, does it require immediate attention? Is it urgent? So when you're going through your task list, you need to ask yourself, is this important and is this urgent? That's how you're going to start to break down what tasks are going to be delegated to which quadrant. So now that brings us to step 3, which is assigning the tasks to the appropriate quadrant. Once you've evaluated the tasks, you're going to assign one of the relevant quadrants in the Eisenhower Matrix based on its urgency and importance. So this is going to help you visualize your tasks and kind of prioritize them. So for example, if we're using what we mentioned earlier, which was filming 3 videos, maybe that's on your task list, you can put that under the urgent and important category because you need content for the upcoming week to publish. While something like the other thing we mentioned, scheduling Twitter posts, could likely fall under important but not urgent because that's something you can schedule. And if you don't get around to scheduling them, you can obviously post them on the fly. So you start to see how your list of tasks gets categorized in these 4 quadrants, and then you're going to take action on them based on the assigned quadrant you gave them. So this is step 4. Once you have all of your tasks organized and assigned to a specific quadrant, that's when it's time to take action. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to start with the do quadrant, that top left quadrant. This is where you have your most important and urgent tasks, and this should be your top priority to do as soon as possible. So these are the things that are going to be at the top of your list, the things you try to accomplish first at the start of your day. These are where you focus all of your time, energy, and attention. Second to that is the schedule quadrant. So you're going to look at your important but not urgent tasks. These tasks should be scheduled for later. You will decide when you're going to do them and set a reminder for them. So we've talked in many of our past, episodes or Twitter spaces about how you can set up a reminder Telegram channel to send yourself reminders and get phone notifications. You can use a phone reminder app like iPhone has, for example. I'm sure Android has something similar. Or you can have this set in your Google Calendar to push you a reminder. But however you want to do it, scheduling out these tasks and setting reminders when to sit down and do the scheduling of them is what is going to be priority in the schedule quadrant. Next, the bottom left quadrant of the Eisenhower Matrix, this is delegate. So these are for the not important but urgent tasks. So these are things you're going to want to eventually, maybe even not at this stage of your business, but eventually delegate to someone else. If you can't delegate it, decide whether it needs to be done now or it needs to be scheduled for later. So if you're not at the point in your business where you have a team member or a personal assistant, maybe you're not grown large enough to even need that or facilitate that at this point, then you're going to take those tasks that you would have put in delegate and you're going to opt to put them in the do or the schedule quadrant instead because you're the only one there. So if you can't delegate, decide whether it needs to be done now or scheduled for later. And then this last and final quadrant, that bottom right quadrant of the Eisenhower Matrix, is delete or eliminate. So when you're considering eliminating tasks, they are the things that are not important or not urgent, and they belong in this quadrant. These are things that if they don't contribute to your long-term goals or they don't require immediate attention, they may not be worth your time or energy at all. This is something I want to discuss for a little bit because I know a lot of adult creators who are super busy, whose social lives, suffer, who don't get involved in their community, whether it's their local friend group or don't attend family things, because when you're not working, you feel guilty. That's something that we all face. When you're not on cam, you're leaving money on the table. When you're not filming, you're not publishing, and that's going to hurt your income. Because you're in business for yourself, there's always this constant ebb and flow of I should be doing X because I want Y. And if I'm not doing that, I should be punishing myself for it. And I want to discuss this for a little bit because I am the biggest hypocrite. And even though I can speak to this, I still do this to myself all the time. And I'm trying to get better at it. There will always be money left on the table because we cannot work 24 hours a day. And for those of you out there trying, myself included, the thing we have to remember is that we all need sleep and we all need self-care. And the best way to guarantee burnout is to do exactly that and try to work every waking second of every waking hour. So putting in systems in place is really going to help you get more out of the hours you work versus having to work all the hours. And this is why I think that this quadrant specifically, the Eisenhower Matrix specifically as a tool, was so important to talk about today. Because if you can not just take your task list and knock off tasks, but take your task list and analyze if those tasks are actually getting you to your long-term goals, if they are directionally correct for your business, then that will keep you doing things that are productive and not keep you doing things that just keep you busy. And if you can make and see the difference between the two, that is going to move your business forward with a lot more leverage than constantly being busy all the time. So when you get things that fall into this delete or eliminate quadrant, those things are probably going to surprise you. And for the longest time, when you start putting this in place and using this framework, you might not even have things that fall under the delete category. I know that when I was looking at my personal task list, which I actually happen to have open right, if I'm looking at that, one of the things here, so QR code business cards to hand out at expos, because I don't have that handy, right? I don't really hand out business cards. It's not something I've done in the past. It's something I thought would be handy. A lot of people do it at expos, especially if you're at expos. A QR code that goes to my OnlyFans, for example, would be really handy to have. So I have that on my to-do list. Is that something I need to do that's urgent? No. Is it something I can schedule for later? I mean, maybe. Something I could delegate? I could probably assign this to a team member to get done. Is it something I could delete? Do I really think there's going to be an ROI on business cards in this day and age when I could literally set up my iPad with my QR code at a booth and just have fans scan it? That's probably a better use of time. So that would be something I could put in this delete category and eliminate it, because although that task might keep me busy, is it really moving my business forward in any significant way? Is there a real ROI on that versus saving paper, saving money, and setting up an iPad, which I already have, and I could accomplish the same thing. So it really, you have to have a little bit of self-awareness when you're going through your tasks and you're analyzing them and deciding which quadrant they're going to go to and deciding how urgent or how important they are, etc. Because if you don't think critically on this part, you're going to find yourself still being busy and not being productive. So I just want to give that piece of experience and advice, because at first when I was doing this for myself, it was really hard to get things in the delete or eliminate category. And then the more I evaluated what my tasks and time were being spent on, the easier it came. It's kind of like purging. Like if you're going through your closet and you're getting rid of stuff, at first you're like, oh, but I wore this on that special day and it's really nostalgic, but I haven't worn it in 6 months. And it's like, I could probably get rid of it. So have that self-awareness going into this and know that this is going to be an exercise in a strengthening of a muscle you will continue at getting better using the more you use it. So keep that in the back of your mind. So again, this last quadrant is going to help you to identify the value of the task that you're doing. And although you might not find yourself deleting tasks very often, that will come in time. And eventually you're going to get so good at this that that quadrant probably will get left empty, because you've eliminated all the things you spend time on that are essentially wasteful or not moving you close to your goals. And then you'll start to be very productive and focus on the tasks that you have remaining, because they are due, schedule now, or delegate kinds of tasks. So this is going to help hold you accountable as well. So by applying the Eisenhower Matrix into your daily routine and kind of utilizing this as a way to prioritize your to-do list, it's going to ensure that your time and energy are directed towards tasks that truly matter and truly contribute to your long-term goals. Not only is this going to help you become more organized, but it also is going to empower you to make strategic decisions about the way you spend your time. And remember, being productive isn't always about doing more, but it's about doing the things that actually matter the most. So I'm going to start opening this up for questions. This is a bit of a shorter space because I want to keep it narrowly focused on this idea. But if you have questions, suggestions, or comments that you want to add, please feel free to come up and request to speak, and I'll start bringing you up. I do want to emphasize that all of the information we put out here on SWCEO, we do put out for free, because we believe in this idea that the more financially successful creators are, the more resources we will have as a community to do things like lobby Congress, impact policy, organize, and more. So if you find value with the content that you've heard here today or any of the tweets that we've put out and you've engaged with, please, please, please consider sharing it to make the journey easier for some of your own adult creator friends. Our only ask is that you retweet our stuff and share it so that we can help as many people as humanly possible. So thank you so much in advance. Let me start bringing up some of these requests here. Let's see, Melanie, I'm going to add you as speaker. Welcome, Melanie. You are currently muted. Let me know if you have any questions or suggestions as well.
Hi, good afternoon. I do have a question. So I am a new creator on Twitter and I have been posting content consistently daily, but I'm starting to get burnt out. So my advice is, what are some tips and tricks to boost up my productivity and also just remain consistent as well?
Yes, these are like the two Achilles heel for creators. So I totally get it. What I suggest, and we put out a lot of like threads and blogs and stuff around this topic too. So there might be more that I may not cover right now that you can find in our resources themselves. But two of the things. So we're talking about productivity in terms of creating content, right? And then consistency. So productivity is about getting more for your time. So what I like to do there is a big factor in that for me is creating lubricant wherever there's friction. And what that means is like the things that hold me up from creating content personally is like if I didn't put on hair and makeup in the morning and it's like 3 p.m., I'm like, I don't want to waste expensive makeup to get ready to film for like an hour and then wash my face. Like that is a deterrent for me. So like one of the things I do is like I go through all of those challenges or obstacles of the reasons I am not creating, and I try to put a system in place that forces me to overcome it so I can no longer use it as an excuse. So like for me, first thing I do now in the morning is I get in hair and makeup immediately, and actually just makeup because I curl my hair overnight with like sleep-in rollers. So then I wake up within 10 minutes, I'm in hair and makeup, and there's no excuse to not be on camera because I'm camera ready. Another thing I've done is I've eliminated my setup and breakdown because I would get so frustrated at not frustrated, but I would like make an excuse for myself. Let's be real. I don't want to go set up lights or move all my lights down 2 flights of stairs to film in the spot I want to film. And like, I would use the equipment as an excuse to not film. So what I did in that sense was I made my equipment super, super portable and super lightweight. So my tripod, it's actually linked. So we do have a link in our bio for, I think it's like creator tools. It's linked on our Twitter bio and Instagram as well, but it's at the bottom. It's creator tools. And it's this little tripod that collapses all the way down to like basically nothing. It's like the size of a ruler, and it expands all the way to 6 feet up. So I can use it for travel, and it's very light and easily movable. And then my lighting setup, I reduced down from like a huge lighting setup with like 3 lights, a fill light, all the stuff, to the cell phone clip-on light. And it's also linked in those resources as well. So now I just clip this light on my phone. It lights me up extremely well. And it also adds this like vignette, like dark edges to all my content that looks very cool. And I just film with that. It's that little tripod, that little clip-on light, and then I edit on my phone in CapCut. And the other piece to this is I do everything on my phone, because for me, having to sit at a computer, having to transfer files, having to edit on a computer, it wastes time, it wastes my energy, and I don't look forward to doing it. It was another excuse to not produce content. So I eliminated that by keeping it all in-house on my phone. So I film on my phone, I edit on my phone, and I can schedule from my phone to the platform. So that's what I mean when I say like add lubricant wherever there's friction between you and content creation, because that's like the biggest thing we struggle with is consistent content creation. But when you zoom out and look at our role, we're adult content creators. So the content creation part is very important to the business we're running. So like trying to make sure that that process is as seamless and easy for you to do as possible, and take away all the things and the reasons you excuse yourself from doing it. So that's kind of what I would say to production and productivity. Now, on the flip side, the consistency part, what I like to do in terms of consistency is batch create or get ahead. So like right now, I took a personal break. I create content every day as well, and I had to take a break from that because I had travel, I had a bunch of meetings to take for SWCEO. I didn't have that content creation time block available for me for some time in my schedule. So I had to find a way to get back to being consistent again. So what I'll do is I'm scheduling reruns to post on my platforms for the rest of this month. So that's content, I've already posted before, maybe months or a year ago, and I'll repurpose it and post that in a new content pieces place. This way the platforms are consistent. I'm still publishing, things are still scheduled, fans are still happy. So now that I took time off, I'm actually creating content all this week, and I'm saving it to publish like a week or two from now. so that this way I always have like a library of unpublished stuff that I can pull from and use going forward. So the biggest trick to consistency is scheduling and creating in advance and publishing later. That's like the biggest hack. And I know that's probably intuitive and most people know that, but it's the doing it that actually, makes it happen. So if you are getting burnt out, what I would do is take some time off. First off, like your mental health and your health and sanity is most important. So take that time off, do whatever relaxes you, makes you feel good, gets you back into like a place of feeling motivated and inspired. And then that following week, once you're back on your feet and you're in a good place, create content every day like you would, but limit it to just one piece a day. Don't batch create, just do it once. One thing a day, very easy pace, but don't publish that until a week or 2 weeks later. And then continue that pace. So if you're only making one thing a day, but that thing is getting published 2 weeks or 3 weeks later, then you're stockpiling this library of content so that if you have an off day or you want time off, you can take that day and you still have something that's going to be published for you, like that'll go up in that space. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that answers your question. But that's what I try to do for productivity versus consistency is like productivity, eliminate all the excuses you're giving yourself, even if they're legitimate. Like just add ways and systems and processes to overcome those challenges to why you are creating. And on the consistency side is stock up a library of content so that you are already like always filmed in advance and you always have stuff to be putting out. And then when you continue to film, you're just adding to that cache and that library of stuff that will go out in 2 weeks, to a month later. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much for joining our space. It would be absolutely incredible if you rated this podcast 5 stars and left a little review. We want to get this podcast to as many adult creators as possible, and you taking a second to leave a couple stars and a review really helps us do that. Thanks so much.